brought my bag. It's my show and tell bag. All teachers have to have a show and tell bag. Show and tell is a really great thing for school because it gives kids an opportunity to talk about themselves. And for me, that's the point where teaching begins. Most of you know this, but I immigrated to the United States with my parents, and I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. We entered the country full of hope and expectation. My father was a theologian, and my mother had studied child development. Though both of my parents worked, we always found time to come together at the dinner table, and every day, 5:30. And then after dinner, we would read the Bible, and Dad would quiz us. So I knew by the time I was in high school that God had a plan for me. So there we were at Southwestern, and then at some point we were invited to move to Texas, and that's where I went to high school. And as a high school student of 17, I prayed about what I needed to do with my life. And then I turned on the TV, and sure enough, there was a show on there called Good Night America, and they did an expose on the Willowbrook Institution in New York. And this was an institution for mentally disabled people, and it was suffering so terribly in its care for human beings that I was just moved. And I was convinced, that all people can learn. All people can learn, and all people have a right to learn. And I'm sorry for getting emotional, but that's why I'm an artist. Okay, so that's what drove me into becoming a teacher. I went to TCU, and I got a dual certificate in elementary education and special education. And then I started public school. And after 6 weeks of being in public school and coming home crying every day, I was really disillusioned by what I saw. One of the lessons I learned, though, I learned pretty early on in those first 6 weeks at the cost of poor Ernest, who was having trouble with homework, and parent conference didn't work. So I went to the principal, and he was like, yeah, come on over. We went to Mr. Moore's office, and his solution was for Ernest to put his hands down on the chair and paddled him 3 times. I was shocked, and that's when I knew that I needed to take ownership of my classroom. And that's when I realized that it's about the relationship between the student and the teacher that really makes the difference. So I left there after 2 years and started looking for other opportunities. I went to a wilderness camping program for kids that were struggling with their family relationships and their school. They lived out in the woods, and this was a program that was started by the Salesmanship Club of Dallas, and they needed an education program, so I started the education program there. From there, I went for 2 years to Austin, and I worked with deaf and blind children. And then I returned to Dallas to start with the Salesmanship Club again, working in their urban education program, and this time they were really trying to keep those kids here and work intensively with the parents and build the relationships in the families. So I've been working with them now for 32 years, and we've been growing. We're quite a big agency now, and it is called Momentous Institute. I want to introduce you to some of my students. When we first moved to Oak Cliff, we really were confronted by the violence that so many of our children encounter. The focus of the program is to work with children that live in poverty. So we have children, for example, I had a family, this mother had 4 sons, and I had her 2 youngest sons in my classroom, and then she had a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old. But when they came to the school, the 17-year-old had been killed already. He had been at a drug house, and he was shot. So there were these two young boys that were fifth graders with an older brother that was already dead and another brother that was 16. And I know you know what's coming. One day, Miss Johnson comes to the school and says, Miss Kiwiet, my son has been killed. And it was her second son that was killed at a drug house. Now, they lived in a neighborhood where there were drug houses. That's where they lived. And I remember having a discussion with my students in the classroom and saying, what about the police? And they said, well, the police don't come to our neighborhood, Miss Kiwiet. The drug dealers wear white suits so that everyone knows who they are. Now, I thought that was quite surprising. I also spontaneously made a house visit in my first years, and I was doing that to bring our Christmas tree to the family because they didn't have one, and we had one in our classroom. So we all went across Jefferson Street and down the block to Sylvia's house, and Sylvia had already told us, well, my mom says we don't have room. So I said, well, that's okay. I just thought she was being modest. And so we carried the tree across the street and got to block the traffic. Everybody likes to do that. And but when we got there, Mrs. Garcia opened the door, and there was a whole line of laundry that she was looking through. And so the laundry was hanging up inside the house, kind of in a little entry way. And so we all walked through the laundry, and we came into a room, and there were some mats on the floor that you could tell were for sleeping, but there was no furniture. And I could see the kitchen, and there was one sink with all the dishes in it. They were clean, but there was no place to store them. No cabinets, no counters, nothing. And then there was a curtain that was acting as a wall, because I didn't know this, that Sylvia shared that half of a duplex with her uncle and his family. So they were on the other side of the curtain. And that was when I realized how naive I had been. Well, we learned, we eventually decided to focus on early intervention. So I'm going to introduce you to some of my students, and working on early intervention really has helped us help families and helped us, when a kid grows up in poverty, they grow up behind right from the start. So our goal in our program is to bring them up to where when they graduate from 5th grade, they can mainstream into public education. And I'm happy to say we have a 98% success rate with high school graduation. Yeah. We also have a mentor program for our students that starts with them when they're in the 11th grade and helps them get ready for college. So many of our students go on to college. Poverty is a cycle, and so we don't have success with all of that, but we do really try hard. Okay, so I've kind of skipped around a little bit. We're going to look at it. These are some houses. Let's just start flipping through. I can't tell you their names. There's Sweetie. I'm just going to call them all Sweetie. And there's another Sweetie. And this was at one time when I went, we do home visits every year at the beginning of the year. Every student gets a visit from their teacher in their home. And so you can keep going through there, Mark. And so we take pictures of them. Now, these are pretty good houses, pretty happy families. Yeah. Now, one more. This house, if you'll notice, has a table in the house. And if a house has a table in it, that's usually a good sign. That means they come together around it. And I always see that as like, oh, they've got a table. That's good. They're either doing homework or they're eating or there's something, but it's a place to come around. All right. Now I teach art. I used to teach in the classroom, but now I teach art. And I teach, these are my newest students this year. Look, we're learning about the word soft. We have little Q-tips and we're outlining the letters to the word soft. Doesn't she look pretty? Yeah. So I work with all of the students in our program. I see each student about, if you count the number of contacts, I have 536 contacts a week that I do with them. Here's Sir Ken Robinson, who is a big promoter of creativity. It's as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it that way. And I hope that my demonstration here today will show that. This is my classroom. We have a beautiful school. And when these kids come into our building, you know, when it's time to go, it's hard to get them out the door because there's carpet, there's clean bathrooms, they have food. This was my concept wall, that question mark. That's how I figure out where they are. So when they come into my class, they get to ask a question. And if they ask a question about art, they get to turn on the light. And then I know, okay, I can get you right there and take you forward. This year, our focus is finding our artistic voice. This is a fun, see, this is also my space. I made this little sculpture here of the art elements, and it's kind of my place to play too. I can't help it. And those are messages I write to them. Now, we have animals in art, so that's our animals in art. You see those little, wait, go back for a second, Mark. Thank you. See those little animals down there on the counter? So one of my hobbies is to go to estate sales and find little sculptures of animals, really cheap. So I can bring them in so they can see a three-dimensional version of what they're seeing on a picture. Okay, thanks, Mark. These are some chairs that we designed as a group. I do a lot of group work. And so the focus on these chairs was combining animal adaptation and design. So you can see the elephant chair and the giraffe chair. I think it's very important to teach the students an appreciation for nature. So I have this area in my room where we have live plants, and they can use them as subject matter for drawing. But we also take cuttings. You can go on, Mark. And here's a whole set of books that they can use for drawing and mineral section. I have a fireplace. So I get to really create a feeling of and an ambiance in my classroom. These are estate sale things that I found. This is my materials counter. All right, and then of course, you can go on, flip on through here. These are my paintings. Okay, one of the things that we do is we do teach mindfulness in our program. We teach the children how to develop a focus. So, because when you come in and your mom maybe wasn't home that night, or you haven't seen your dad in 3 days, or he's in prison, because we have some of those, it's really hard to focus on school. So we teach practicing concentration and focus. And here's a little sample of some earth art. There's our garden outside. Here we took pictures of animals in the plants. You know, that was fun. Here's the mystery box. These pictures are a little bit blurry, I'm sorry. You can just start flipping through, Mark, to see what some of the pictures are. You can see we talk about different, now this is great. So one of the first lessons I learned being an art teacher was that art honors self and others. So they're there making something really beautiful and you're proud of them, and then they write "Dad" right across the middle of it in paint, and you're like, ah. But it's because art does honor yourself and it honors others. So these little boys are making pictures for their dads. This little one, "I love you, Dad." He's so cute. And I also teach them that it's a gift that they can give. So once in a while, we'll wrap it up in a gift and send it home.
How old are these children?
My youngest students are 3 years old, and then so I have them for 8 years. And of course, the senses. We have an area for play. Play is extremely important for children to process their information. We can play with art. one of the things I also learned was it was very hard for my students to look at a two-dimensional surface and understand what they are seeing. They don't know how to comprehend it. This is another thing we try to integrate with the parents. So like my first graders all learn how to make a checkerboard, a lot of math there, and then they invite their parents in and we teach them how to play checkers and they play checkers with their parents. Art's supposed to be fun. Now here is water. Okay, so I thought for the purpose of my demonstration, I would just teach you how I take one subject matter and take it across the different grade levels. So here we see them playing with watercolor paint. Oh, that one got in the way. This is supposed to be art is fun. This is another family activity I do for Christmas time. We make Christmas ornaments together. All right, here we go. Here's the water. These kids, they made pictures of water because it was raining outside. These kids are starting to learn about the shape and the motion of water. See? That's a kindergartner. Now comes first grade. You'll be impressed with these first grade pictures. You can just flip through. Now, third grade, when we do water, we do this activity where we make little balls out of clay to look like rocks, and then we pour paint down, and it goes around the rocks, all right? And so then we take them off, and then we make a drawing, and then we make a painting. So we go from concrete to abstract. I discovered that that was the best way for me to teach my student, was to go, whatever we're doing, we have to go from concrete to abstract. There we have the fifth graders, and then we have the final sculpture, one more, of them swimming in the water. That's paper mache. Here's another example of, trying to read the image, and it's just another approach. Concrete to abstract. We're making a snake, we draw the snake. We make a cupcake, we make a collage of the cupcake. This is a really good, this is how I figured it out. I was teaching weaving, and the kids, I love weaving because everybody's so quiet. But, I looked up a week later, and half of them were doing it all wrong. And then I realized we need to be picking things up. So I got all the clay out, and we started weaving with clay. Everybody has to help with that because clay is very heavy, and if you pick it up just like that, it breaks. So we all got involved in that. They're pretty happy about that. Then they made their own individuals out of modeling clay. And then we made a big one out of paper mache. This was my project. But I do a lot of my own work with them, and then we painted it together. And there it is. This is another concrete to abstract. We made chairs. A little girl brought a chair in that her dad had made, so we tried to make them out of paper mache. And of course, we have fun taking pictures of our chairs. And then we draw them. So you see how abstract it's become? They're really getting, here's our elephant chair, a close-up of the elephant chair. This is an example of me making a mistake, buying something at an estate sale, and having them, they're going to put this together. It's supposed to be an oil derrick. This is the opposite now. We looked at this, we noticed the windows, and we started moving backwards from something flat. So this is kindergarten. They noticed the windows, pre-K. They made their own windows. Kindergarten added birds into their windows. And then we started making houses. These are egg cartons taped together. We talked about shape. We're covering them with paper mache. There they are. We use sticks. Drawing the sticks, you can see they're starting to draw what they created. Look at her. She is so determined, that little girl. And now we're drawing houses. There they are, ready for action. That's called collaboration. All right. This painting was done in one class period, actually two. The first one was everybody in the 5th grade got their own color of paint, and their job was to paint around each other in a cooperative way, collaborating. And then the next time, of course, we did the words collaboration. Here, students collaborate with each other. I love to see them work together. This little boy had a brother who hated bugs but loved soccer, so I gave him a soccer ball and he drew bugs all over it. And then we gave it to him. Problem solving. This is a beautiful, this is enlarging using a grid. You can see the squares. So then each student takes a small piece. Empathy is about standing in someone else's shoes, feeling with his or her heart, seeing with his or her eyes. Not only is empathy hard to outsource and automate, but it makes the world a better place. We focus on empathy in our school. This is a painting that we did in response to the crisis in 9/11. This is a painting. It's actually actual handprints of the kids and adults. It was a collaborative project with HP. I also work with the corporations that sponsor the Salesmanship Club. And there it is hanging in the front office. We make big paintings for the golf tournament, so we've got collaboration going on over there. This is Keith Haring, motivated or inspired. Those go to the tournament and then they get signed. This is a Mondrian inspired painting. This is the new branding sign that they let me do. That's another one. Here they are making a Jackson Pollock painting. That was fun. There it is. Isn't that beautiful? I'm telling you. And there they sign it. This is you're going really fast right now. Whew. All right, this one was fun. This is number art. You can tell the top one's number 8. It's been arranged in a spider web for 8 legs on a spider. Number 4 are little animals. Okay, these are at SMU. They're at SMU right now, actually. That's the number 1. This one, I don't know. It's supposed to be 7, but I can't remember what the logic was behind it. 6, 2, 3, and 5. Okay, you can keep rolling now, I think. So creativity. So collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. Those are the 21st century skills, and we're getting to do all of them in art. The last project that I do with my 5th graders is a project where they envision themselves as a change maker in the future. And we're going to see some of those. These are their paintings enlarged on silkscreen by one of our club members who owns an advertising agency. This is a canopy that we created out in the courtyard using ribbon and string. There's the shadow of it. Oh my goodness, what time are we at, Mark? Are we out of time? Oh, dang. Okay, scoot. But let me just tell you, this is Jesus Morales, internationally acclaimed artist. Grew up in Oak Cliff. When I found that out, I haunted him for 10 years, and I finally got him to come out, and he spent the whole day. This is the kid ship. The kids made it out of milk cartons. One more, and you'll see what they did. They put this little line around the bottom, and they used the imaginary walls to go in and out of their house. Imagination. This is a big dome that we created. Keep going. You're going to get to the good part. Yeah, and then we filled it with the Van Gogh Starry Night. This is self-awareness is really important, feeling good about yourself. And then this is the final project the kids create. You can keep going, Mark. And see, she wants to be a teacher. She wants to be a counselor. He wants to be a carpenter. He wants to be a soccer player. Carpenter. What is that? A video gamer? Basketball, veterinarian, soccer, and designer. Okay, I don't know if we can go on to the rocks. We'll have to do the rocks another time. Thank you for your time. I do want to finish up by saying, you know, it's about relationships and accessibility. These kids have this accessible to them because of a tremendous amount of generosity and hard work with a lot of different groups of people. But so accessibility is really important, but relationships are the key. Thank you again.